She smiled as she handed back the cash, then lured her friend to a farm and put a bullet in her head. Another officer walked into a restaurant she once guarded and left 3 bodies behind, including one of her own. They wore the badge, but they used it as a weapon. These are some corrupt women officers who are serving life sentences and others serving serious prison time. Let's start with Ashley McArthur, who knew exactly how to erase a paper trail. She wasn't acting out of anger or desperation. She was a trained crime scene expert, someone who used to solve cases, not create them. That's what made her so dangerous. She knew how to hide things, how to clean up, how to make a story look real. And she thought she could get away with it. Her victim was someone close to her, a friend named Taylor Wright. Taylor was a private investigator going through a tough divorce. She took out $34,000 to keep it safe and handed it to Ashley, trusting her. Then Taylor disappeared. Ashley told everyone she didn't know where Taylor went. She even used Taylor's phone to send fake messages, trying to make it seem like Taylor had run off. But the story didn't hold. Security cameras, phone records, and holes in her timeline started piling up. When police searched Ashley's family land, they found Taylor's body buried under dirt and concrete. In 2019, Ashley was sentenced to life in prison. She can't even apply for parole until 2044. She used to work inside the system. Now she's part of it. And then came another case, one that stayed hidden for over 20 years. Stephanie Lazarus wasn't just another cop. She was part of the LAPD's elite art theft division. Smart, trusted, and good at her job. But behind that badge was a story no one saw coming. Back in the early 1980s, Stephanie dated a man named John. It didn't last. He moved on, fell in love with a woman named Sherry Rasmussen, and they got married. Stephanie was supposed to be part of his past, but she never really let go. In February 1986, just weeks after the wedding, Sherry was found dead in her home. The scene looked like a robbery gone wrong. No one suspected Stephanie. She was young, respected, and already rising in the ranks. The case went cold, but it didn't stay that way. In 2009, a team reopened the file. They tested a bite mark found on Sherry's arm. The DNA came back with a match: Stephanie Lazarus. She was arrested at work by fellow officers who once looked up to her. In 2012, she was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 27 years to life. When she asked for parole in 2024, it was denied. Not just because of what she did, but because she never once showed remorse. For years, she wore the badge while the truth stayed buried. Now, she's the one locked away. Take Alfreda Fluker, for example. She was a longtime officer with the Birmingham Police Department, 15 years on the job. People trusted her. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart. She had been in a rocky relationship with another officer. When it ended and he started seeing someone new, Alfreda didn't take it well. One night in April 2020, she found them sitting together in a car near a park. And she snapped. She opened fire. The man survived. But the woman with him, Kenesha Nicole Fuller, didn't make it. At first, people didn't believe Alfreda could have done it. But security footage, bullets, and the timeline told the truth. She was arrested and charged with capital murder. In 2023, the court sentenced her to life in prison with no chance of parole. After 15 years of wearing a badge, one moment changed everything. She was supposed to protect lives, but in the end, she took one. Then there's Antwanette Frank. Her name still haunts New Orleans. In the mid-1990s, she became one of the youngest female officers on the force. But instead of serving the city, She started secretly dating an 18-year-old drug dealer named Rogers Lacaze. It was risky, and it got worse. On March 4, 1995, Antoinette used her badge to get into a restaurant where she used to work security. Inside were workers and a fellow officer, Ronald Williams. What was supposed to be a robbery turned into something much worse. 3 people were killed, Officer Williams and 2 teenagers from the View family, who owned the place. Antoinette tried to act like she was responding to the crime scene, pretending she had nothing to do with it. But someone had survived, hiding in a freezer. That person told the police everything. She was arrested just days later. In court, it only took the jury 22 minutes to decide. Guilty. Today, Antwanette Frank sits on death row. She's the only woman in Louisiana with that sentence. Her badge gave her access. Her choices sealed her fate. But not all betrayals happen in a moment. Some are planned quietly, over time, away from the public eye. Aaron Sharma was a corrections officer in Florida, tasked with maintaining safety in one of the toughest institutions in the country. But safety was the last thing on her mind. In 2016, Sharma orchestrated a cell transfer that would end in tragedy. She assigned a vulnerable inmate to a cell with someone known for violent behavior. Everyone in the facility knew what would happen next, and Sharma did too. It wasn't an accident. It was a setup. Within days, the inmate was found unresponsive. Witnesses described a pattern of mistreatment, neglect, violence. And when investigators pieced it all together, they found something worse than failure. They found intent. Sharma was arrested, charged, and convicted of first-degree murder. Her sentence: life without the possibility of parole. She didn't pull the trigger. She didn't throw a punch. But she built the environment where it all happened, and that made her just as responsible. But manipulation isn't always about force. Sometimes it's about exploiting weakness. Sophie Emms worked in a UK prison where discipline and boundaries were supposed to be non-negotiable, but she let the lines blur. At 29, she began a relationship with an older inmate. What started with friendly conversations turned into contraband. Drugs soaked into books. Messages passed in code. Sophie thought she could handle it, that she was still in control, but she wasn't. The operation grew. More people got involved, and when the authorities started digging, everything unraveled. She pled guilty in court, said she had made mistakes. The judge agreed and still sentenced her to nearly 3 years behind bars. She went from enforcing rules to breaking them, from guard to inmate, from authority to consequence. And just like that, the uniform meant nothing. Across the ocean in the UK, another betrayal came from behind a police desk. Natalie Mottram was just 24 when she began leaking details of Operation Venetic, one of the largest criminal crackdowns in British history. As an intelligence analyst, Natalie had access to encrypted communication data. She used it to warn her friend's boyfriend, a known associate of organized crime, that law enforcement had infiltrated the platform they used. The leak nearly collapsed the entire operation. And when investigators caught on, they discovered more: hidden meetings, phone logs, and £200,000 in cash. Natalie pled guilty in 2023 to misconduct in public office and was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison. She won't be eligible for parole until 2026. Her career was promising, her betrayal catastrophic. Another name from the UK makes the list for an entirely different kind of betrayal. Paula Atwood-Rees was a retired officer from South Wales. Her career was over, but her temper wasn't. After a legal battle with neighbors she'd been feuding with for years, Paula snapped. One night, she gathered what she called tools, knives, a cattle prod, a metal pole. Then she stormed their home. She broke down the door, hurt both residents, left a trail of chaos and fear. Passers-by heard the screams and intervened. The police arrived. Even then, Paula turned her aggression on the officer sent to arrest her. In court, she blamed PTSD, a brain injury, but the judge focused on the planning, the history, the brutality. She was sentenced to over 6 years in prison. It wasn't life, but the damage was. The victims lost their home, their peace, their sense of safety, all destroyed by someone who once swore to keep order. And some officers didn't kill, but they came close. Take Valerie Cincinelli. A 10-year veteran of the NYPD, she worked video patrol in Queens, quiet, behind the scenes. But her personal life was unraveling fast. A bitter custody fight with her ex-husband, a toxic, spiraling relationship with her boyfriend. And beneath it all, a plan that left everyone stunned. Valerie handed over $7,000, asking her boyfriend to find someone who could solve her problems permanently. Her targets? Her estranged husband, and the boyfriend's teenage daughter. But the man she confided in wasn't on her side. He went straight to the FBI. What followed was a sting operation that felt like something out of a movie. Wiretaps, recorded calls, even fake photos staged to make Valerie believe the plan had worked. And she didn't panic. She didn't flinch. She just asked what came next. That was enough. In 2019, Valerie was arrested and later pled guilty to obstruction of justice. The murder-for-hire charges were dropped as part of the plea, but the courtroom made it clear this wasn't a simple lapse in judgment. It was cold, calculated betrayal. She served just under 4 years. She's out now. But the scars left behind on the people she targeted run far deeper than any sentence ever could. And then there's Kim Potter. Her story broke across the world in 2021. And not because she intended harm, but because of a single, irreversible mistake. Potter had spent over 2 decades in uniform. She wasn't new, she wasn't untrained. But on April 11th, during what should have been a routine traffic stop in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, something went terribly wrong. 20-year-old Daunte Wright had been pulled over. There was a warrant. He resisted. Potter shouted, "Taser!" 3 times, but what she drew was her firearm. 1 shot. Daunte collapsed, and Potter's entire world shattered. "I grabbed the wrong gun," she cried, crumpling to the pavement as body cam footage recorded every second. The timing couldn't have been worse. The trial of Derek Chauvin was happening just miles away, and the outrage was instant. In court, Potter didn't deny her mistake. She didn't try to rewrite the facts, but the jury still found her guilty of manslaughter. She was sentenced to 24 months, served 16th, released in 2023. For some, it was a tragic accident. For others, it was fatal negligence dressed in a badge. Either way, her career ended in disgrace, and Daunte Wright never got a second chance. But not every betrayal came with violence. Some came with access, with passwords, with police clearance. Lorna Pennycook once wore her West Midlands police uniform with pride. She was supposed to be a protector. But when she started dating a known criminal, a man with more than 18 convictions, she stopped protecting the public and started protecting him. His name was Lee Kennedy. And for 4 years, Lorna used her credentials to dig into files she had no business accessing. Search warrants, ongoing investigations, names of confidential informants. She ran over 40 unauthorized searches, shared updates on surveillance, gave him tips on how to avoid arrest. At one point, she even helped him get an untraceable phone so they could keep talking off the record. She wasn't assigned to any of the cases she accessed, but she inserted herself anyway, over and over again. Eventually, it caught up to her. A digital audit flagged unusual activity. An internal probe followed, and when they confronted her, she resigned. But walking away from the badge didn't make the consequences disappear. In 2023, Lorna stood before a judge and admitted to misconduct in public office. Her sentence? 4 years behind bars. She used to read confidential files. Now, her own name is the one behind locked doors. And Lorna wasn't the only one who let personal relationships steer her off course. Stephanie Heaps looked like a model officer. She started out working in prison security at HMP Wyatt, then joined Greater Manchester Police. On paper, everything looked good. She was rising fast. But behind the scenes, she was hiding something serious. A relationship with a dangerous man named Leon Ramsden. Ramsden wasn't just any inmate. He had been convicted of murder and had deep ties to organized crime. That didn't stop Stephanie from staying close to him. She kept in touch using smuggled phones. She passed him information from inside the police force. And once, she even let a suspect go because of his connection to Ramsden. For a while, it seemed like no one noticed. But then, pictures of her and Ramsden showed up online, edited to look like wedding photos. That raised alarms. An investigation followed. It didn't take long to connect the dots. In July 2024, Stephanie was arrested and sentenced to 4 years and 3 months in prison. Her badge was taken away. Her access was cut off. Her career ended. She thought she could get away with it, that no one would find out. But every message, every favor, every decision added up. And in the end, her own choices caught up with her. Thanks for watching, and if you've ever had a run-in with law enforcement, good or bad, we want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments below. Because the truth deserves to be heard, and the more we share, the harder it is for power to hide.